Welcome back to this video. In the last video, we finished our discussion on different types of performance appraisal techniques. Now in this video, we are going to discuss various problems or errors that can occur when doing performance appraisal. So we are going to look at different kinds of bias that can occur when doing a performance appraisal, and also what are some of the other problems that can take place if the appraisal process is not properly designed or implemented. Now all of these concepts are really easy for you to understand, and on top of that, some of these concepts are already covered in your MGT 201 or organizational behavior course. So without further delay, let's start with the errors here. So what is the first error? Here it is. Unclear standards. So if we go into the details here, it is not having proper descriptions of the performance target. So as I said earlier, in setting objective or standard or target, we have to be smart. Remember the video on smart objectives? Yes. If your objective is not smart and your target is not clear to the employees, they will not be able to perform better. Now let me give you with a more relatable example. Say, if I tell all of you that if you do really well, I'll give you an A. Does it make sense to you? I mean really well, is it clear? No, I have to give you a specific number. Is it 80 marks or is it 90 marks? Where does it A start from? So that is what is needed. We have to set clear standards or targets. So what can we do here? In setting targets, we can use numbers, because by setting numbers, we can make the standards clear for the employees. Otherwise, you know what will happen? The employees will keep looking at you like this. So if you are a boss of someone and you say something like, yes, you have to do really well in your office, that doesn't make any sense. You have to give them concrete numbers that yes, you have to sell 100 units or you have to sell 200 units and so on. So in summary, the standards or the targets or the benchmarks have to be clear. So we need to avoid these kind of errors. Now let's move on to the next one. What is the next error that can happen? So here it is. Central tendency. It is a statistical term. So I'm sure those of you who have done statistics course, you have heard of this term. But if you have forgotten, do not worry. I'm trying to explain it to you without any help of statistics. I'm going to avoid the statistical definition. I'm going to give you a very simple definition here. So let's take a look. Giving all employees average ratings. That is central tendency. So if you are a boss and you decide that you are not going to give anyone a very good score or you are not going to give anyone very poor score. Rather, you decide that yes, you are going to give everyone more or less an average score. That is central tendency. Again, let me give you a more relatable example. Say at the end of the year, in a performance appraisal, the outcome will be 3 categories of employees. So category A, who are the best performers, category B, who are average performers, and category C, who are poor performers. So an HR manager or a boss has these 3 options, A, B, or C. Now if the boss or the HR manager has a central tendency, you know what they'll do? They will bring in the first employee and then give that person a B, so average score. Then they'll move on to the second employee and then again give that person another B. And then after that to the third person, B again. To the fourth person, B again. Fifth, B again. And finally, the last person, B again. So all throughout the performance appraisal process, everyone ends up getting a B. So this is what is called central tendency, giving most of the employees average ratings. Now this tendency can be really demotivating for the high performing employees because they worked really hard, but at the end of the day, some of them might end up getting a B as well. So we need to avoid this kind of central tendency as well. So now let's move on to the next type of error. What is that? Here it is. Recency effect. And I'm sure many of you have read this in your MGT 201 or MGT 211 course. Now the details of this error is hidden in the name. Recency. So what happens here? Here it goes. Recency means letting what the employee has done recently blind you to what their performance has been over the year. So if your boss suffers from this effect, you know what that person is going to do? That person will forget all the hard work done by all the employees all throughout the year. Rather, the boss will focus only on recent achievements. So for example, the performance appraisal is at the end of the year in December, right? So rather than considering all the hard work or all the performance throughout the year, so starting from January to December, your boss may focus only on the performance of the recent times. So maybe all the work done in November or December. So now, what is the problem with that? There is a huge problem. For example, you worked really hard throughout the year, alright? So you worked day and night throughout the year, from January to December. However, there is someone else who did not do much work throughout the year, but when November came, that person started going to the boss frequently with this. I'm really sorry for using this photo, but yes, that is what happens when recency effect is there. So that person did not work throughout the year at all, but when November or December came, the employee started using a lot of this. And as a result, if the boss suffers from recency effect, that person might end up getting a very good score, maybe a A category. So this type of error should be avoided as well. Otherwise, the sale of Rupchanda will go up in November or December. Alright, now let's move on to the last topic for today. What is that? It's this one, halo effect. And I'm 100% sure in MGD 201 and MGD 211, in both of these courses, this was taught to all of you. So what happens in halo effect? So this is the one. It's the tendency to see one good characteristic or trait in a person, and based on that one characteristic, assume that everything else is good about that person. So that is what halo effect is. So what can be an example here? Here it is. Now let's say you find that someone is really attractive and really well dressed all the time. Now based on that one characteristic, if we assume that yes, that person is definitely successful as well, that is called halo effect. And we should not do this, alright? So how can halo effect work in the office? If a boss assumes that yes, this person is really good at giving presentations, so that means this person is also really good as a leader, and that person is also a really hardworking employee, that is called halo effect. Because based on only on the presentation skill of that person, we are assuming that everything else of that person or that employee is really good. We should always try to avoid these sorts of halo effect. So yes, we are done with halo effect as well, and we have briefly gone through the errors that we can face in a performance appraisal process. See you very soon in the next video.